Good morning.
Good morning, Robert.
Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. As I was just saying, one of the things that's been on my heart this week is the turmoil, if you will, in the world and in the political affairs and what's happening. And the phrase, we've been doing a lot of work in the Course of Love this week. And the Course of Love is pretty much saying the time for all this has ended and the time for an inner knowing is occurring. And so the question came up for me this week is, am I solving the problems or am I adding to the problems? It's a very interesting question because what is my first reaction to an event? Somebody says something, what is my first reaction? And my first reaction could be anger, could be upset, could be revenge, if you will, or they don't know what he's talking about, or it could be love, appreciation, and support. So that if I don't like what I hear, I've been trained in our culture to go into upset right away, okay? And I don't think we realize how quickly that happens. And really, if you stop and think about it, my beliefs are based upon my conditioning and what I've learned. The word education is kind of fascinating. Education generally means to listen to other people's opinions. Everybody got it? And then come up with my own opinions. So my opinions are based upon what I've learned from the world around me and what I've been trained in my family, the school I went to, whatever, if you, and even the religion I grew up in. So the word education becomes that which has influenced me. And can you imagine all the different events in somebody's life? So here I am, X number of years, and my beliefs are all implanted by all the events that have occurred all my life. Can you imagine going back through every minute and every second of my life and cataloging every experience and every voice I've heard, and then put that all together and come up with an opinion? So you see, opinions are based upon our life and what we've experienced, not on rational thought, if I can use that term. The word education comes from a Latin word that was just reminded of this, called educare. And in that Latin word, it means to draw out from within. Shall I say it again? It means to draw out from within, not to be put in from outside. So it's a very, very interesting conversation that we're having. So the automatic response is what I've been conditioned to believe. And if you think about the law of attraction, the law of attraction says whatever you think about, whatever you speak, you create or you attract. So if my immediate reaction is upset, what am I doing? So if I hear something I don't like and I get upset about it, what am I doing? The minute I start condemning, complaining, and criticizing, I'm actually adding to the problem I'm looking at that I don't like. And that is a fact if you really look at it. Yep. And if you really start looking at what Jesus said, and that's why I like the term practical Christianity, which is definitely a unity term. But and what did Jesus have to say about things? And one of his more famous quotes is in Mark. Here's why I got my glasses. I'm still wearing them. By the way, I'm going to go get work on my eyes. So, but Mark 12. Let's see here. Mark 12, 30 and 31. Jesus was asked, "What's the new commandment?" And he said, "And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your might." This is the first commandment. And then there was only one second commandment. It said, and the second is like to it, you must love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. So the key to how to live a successful life is right here. And he said it, he shared it with us 2,000 years ago. And everybody out there is making all kinds of condemning, criticizing, and complaining about others based upon their own beliefs. It's a very, very interesting thing. So where do their beliefs come from? From the world around us. Now, one of the things, how do I change my mind? The only way I can change my mind, in my opinion, is to listen to other ideas. In other words, if I have already made a decision, this is the way life is, we have discussed the idea that there's a part in our mind that actually blocks what we don't believe. And in that blocking of things, I only hear what I believe. It's one of the things that keeps us from going insane, because we can only take so much information in. And in that process, we only hear what we like. Isn't that fascinating? So how do I reach a higher level of understanding? How do I reach an understanding? Even in the scientific world, if new ideas come in, how do I deal with them? Can you imagine what, 600-700 years ago, thinking the world was round? And I had to rethink the whole thing. And what was it? Galileo was ostracized by the church because he said the sun, the earth, everything didn't go around the earth. He came up with the idea of the solar system, which was a scientific fact that we acknowledge today. But back then, he was wrong. He was hated. He was excommunicated by the church, and he was on the outside. But he was right. So the problem becomes is, what do we know is right? What do we know is wrong? And it's all the opinions we have been given all our lives. So who's right and who's wrong? Now, how do I find out? I listen. See, here's the key. If you really go deep, dark, you dig way down, dig way, way down. And this is rather morbid. Everybody ready for this? But when you're gone, what do you leave behind? You leave a legacy. And what is a legacy? That's what you left in people's minds. That's what people remember of you. The values that you have shared, the beliefs that you have shared, the love that you have shared. Unfortunately, the hate you have shared is also left behind. And valuables, sooner or later, kind of, they wear out. Okay, because trinkets and cars and things, they're nice, but they wear out. But when you look at the great scholars that are still written about in books, what did they leave behind? They left ideas of love, they left ideas of change. So how do you make change? We have to stay open. So how do we become more effective as a human being is we are open to other people's ideas. So if you really stop and think about this, the only way I can determine who I am is by my relationship with others. In other words, we are constantly measuring ourselves against other people. And the standards that are set for us are set by other people. So in the conversation, if we shut down a whole part of the community over something we don't believe, what are we doing? We're shutting off half of us. And in today's world out there are people that are absolutely afraid to speak how they feel politically because they'll be angered and get retribution against them, both ways. So what kind of society are we putting together? What kind of love are we putting together? And how are we advancing as human beings? And if we're advancing as human beings, we are more open to all of the information that's available. And there's another part to this. In other words, I might not agree, I'm going to pick on Bruce, okay? He's right in front of me. But I might not agree with Bruce over, I don't know, pick something about TV. And he might like a certain show and I don't like that show. Does that make Bruce wrong? Or does that make Bruce as a person wrong? No, he's a child of God. His ideas are valuable. And the only way I find out maybe why I don't like that show is to listen to Bruce. Maybe deep dark in, there's something within me that causes me not to want to hear that. But guess what the message might be for me that I need to live a better life is what he has to tell me. And if I shut him down, am I growing as a human being? So we are demonizing people that might be our saviors just because they have information that we don't like because of our previous backgrounds, but that's something that I need to hear in my new world. Now, we hear all this about the new world where we're changing things. And I really believe this whole thing's up in chaos right now for us to learn. You know, in other words, how do you learn a new situation? You go into chaos, and you get all the mess out there. And you go through all the stuff that you got to go through. So that's what we're going through right now. But we don't want to hear the new information that we need to hear, or I need to hear. And I do it. I shut down. It's kind of like, well, why am I hearing this? Well, I might need to hear that. Somebody I don't like, what is it about them that I don't like? Because life's a mirror. Everybody got that? So I'm back to Bruce again. But if Bruce says something or is something I don't like, maybe he's telegraphing to me something that I need to change. So Bruce is my mirror in life. Jesus did say, we now see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. And then is when we wake up and understand we're children of God, and we start acting out a spiritual life. It's really fascinating. The world right now is in a turmoil because we don't want to be open to what's possible. Right. And there's all kinds of new ideas out there, and some of them I don't like. So what? It might be something that I need to hear. And this anger and this hate and misrepresentation and absolute lying to get what you want. And everybody's saying the ends justify the means. I disagree. When I read the Ten Commandments, it says those things don't do those things. Why? Because that's the way to live. And in the Christian world, all we're doing is following the rules that Jesus put in line. Do you understand that we live in a society of rules? And those rules have been put together by men. Excuse me, humans. I mean, who says a red light means stop? And who says a green light means go? That was the rules that were put together. Do you get it? Even our Constitution and the law courts and everything, they're just rules that man has put together. Okay? And it gives us an orderly way to live in our society. But yet, what are God's rules? What are the spiritual rules that we live in? And it's those spiritual rules that we are now bringing in and understanding a little bit more, and they have a tendency to be dissonant. What do you mean, love your neighbor as yourself? Is that what's said out there? No. As a matter of fact, it's almost dissonant. It's like, what do you mean, love your neighbor? How can you love him? Well, that's what Jesus said, and he might have something I need to hear. So see, we are so quick. The question is, what's my first reaction? And if I'm really in a spiritual world, my first reaction is, golly, child of God, I love him, I love her. I wonder what the message is I need to hear. Rather than, I don't like that, they are wrong, and condemning them as a human being. So where are we? See, I really believe we're on the verge of a brand new society. The world is changing into a kinder, gentler world. But we got to go through this accusation phase and get it out of our system. It's very interesting. I was reminded, this came to me, and in John 8, it's a very interesting story that Jesus tells. And John 8, it's right here. Right here. And this is a story about the Pharisees. The Pharisees were busy trying to trip Jesus up. And they were giving him all kinds of stories and possibilities. And they were obviously trying to make him look foolish. And they brought to him a woman who was accused of adultery. You're all familiar with this story. Mm-hmm. And they brought her into the circle. They were all in a big circle in the temple, the holy place. Everybody there? And then they asked Jesus, this woman has been in adultery. Moses' law said she should be stoned. What do you say? Now, Jesus didn't answer right away. It was very, very interesting. He actually bent over and started drawing in the dirt. We don't know what he did. We don't know what he said. But he didn't answer right away. He took some time. And they had to ask him, Rabbi, what are you going to say? And his answer was, let him who is without sin, error, be the first one to cast a stone. Hello? You know, do I live a perfect life? Oh God, I hope so. But you see, the idea is we're all flawed. We're all still learning new rules. We're all still working toward the kingdom. And everybody has different ideas on how to get there. Just because somebody has a different religious belief doesn't mean they're wrong and I'm right. But that's the way we are in our society. So it may be interesting to open up and find out what that person believes. Because it might be the link that I am looking for that we're looking for. And so the idea behind this is that he is without sin or error thought, cast the first stone. Now, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of stones flying back and forth in our culture. And all I do is turn on TV and everybody's lying and everybody's, no, that's my opinion. Did you get that? But the whole thing is, it's all a charade put together to make myself be correct or right. So it's giving that up and understanding that Jesus' commandment was, love the Lord thy God, which is turn everything over, and love thy neighbor as thyself. Now, in that last phrase, there's two commandments. Love yourself and understand who you are. And if you take on the mantle, you're a child of God, understand you are divinity in expression. And when you criticize, condemn, and complain, you are creating that in your life. And when you express love and appreciation and harmony, you're creating that in your life and in the life. I use the phrase 7 billion people plus radiating energies of thought out into the world. You realize what's going on? And you right here have the opportunity to change that. Because yes, that influences us, but it doesn't create who we are. We create who we are. And you're a child of God. Hello. And it amazes me sometimes that we just use that term. It just kind of rolls off our tongue. We don't really get it. So anyway, the question is, are we creating a world that we want to live in, or are we going to creating a world that we're condemning? And I believe we need to be creating a world we want to live in by loving and appreciating everybody, even that guy or that gal. Okay, because the kingdom of heaven is within, and we're all on that trip back to the Father. Not too much else to say. The truth is, we're speaking our world into right now. Every word we speak, we're speaking into the ethers and creating what we want. So I really hope you'll join with me in supporting the idea. Let's create a new world. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.